Let's start. Yeah. All right. So, of course, I have these two special people with me who are very, very close to me. And we are starting this new concept from Happiness Coach, which is also very, very close to my heart. And I always wanted to do something like this. And I hope and feel that we continue doing this and put a podcast out every month, hopefully. Before the introductions, I would just like to describe what the podcast will be about today. So we are delving into the topic of emotional intelligence, but since the ambit is too big, we are focusing on empathy. We'll be definitely talking about empathy in personal life as well as professional life. So that is what the agenda of the podcast is today. uh, Perfect. I have my co-host with me, and I have a person who specializes in emotional intelligence and diversity and inclusion. So let's start with you, Senthil. Yeah, you can start by introducing yourself.
Okay. Hi, Yash. Thank you for
Hello.
having me here today. So I'm Sendil. So I run Muddy Games. So I came from a very different background. I came from a very scientific background, and today I do games for my living. I design serious games, and I do game-based facilitation. So me and Yash have been working together for over like 5 years now, working with some of the top corporates in India and also around the world in the space of game-based learning. So really happy to be here, Yash. Thank you.
Always, always, and Moshmi, please, we'll learn a lot about you throughout this podcast. But let's start with a quick introduction on uh, where you have come from, how long have you been doing this, and what is your expertise on this.
Sure. Thank you so much, Yash. Lovely to be here with Senthil and you. And as always, when we get together, we spread happiness. So looking
True.
forward to doing much more of that. So now, where do I begin? That's about telling you about myself. So starting very simply, I'm an executive coach, and I work in the leadership capability building space. And that's the mundane bit. The more exciting things about me is that I have dwelled in different vocations. Started my career in HR, got into recruitment, dabbled in hotels, and something was always missing. And then in when I was going through this entire process, there was no coaching per se in the formal version that we know it now. But I always felt that I was good with connecting with people and understanding what they were going through, and you know being there for them, holding space for them. So finally, about 10 years ago, when coaching started becoming a thing and a buzzword and a vocation, I jumped right in with both feet. And here I am today. I'm a PCC accredited by International Coach Federation. I specialize in diversity and inclusion. And if we put these words aside, it basically means connecting with people,
Yeah.
helping them reach their full potential, and just asking powerful questions for powerful dilemmas. So that, in a nutshell, is who I am and what I do.
I think that is so beautiful about coaching itself, like how we all got into this space is very, very similar about, of course, making a change, right? Like that's always there, like we're trying to make a change in a person's behavior, or but most importantly, we connect with people. Like holding that space, as you said. So Moshmi, I would just like to ask before we begin as well, like what made you think that, what was that phase of your life wherein you thought that connecting with people is easy for me, and I do want to do that. Because for me it was when I started this on a personal experience, it was more about like I want to change something. I want people to be a better version of themselves, right? And that's why I always looked up to coaching in a way. But I always also felt that yes, there is something in me that can connect with people easily, and I do want to do that. So what was that spark for you, and Senthil as well, that led you into this pathway of coaching? Because Senthil, as he said, he was a scientist. He was going into
Yeah.
the scientist background, and he did that. So it's quite an intriguing question. What is that spark that you felt? Was that a person? Was that a moment that you felt that, okay, this is something that I do want to try?
Sure, Yash. That's a lovely question, first of all.
Thank you.
It was a spark because, as I said, I always felt that there was something missing and something more that I could do or be.
Mm,
So, as I said, I was in recruitment and HR, and especially when I was recruiting, and I was recruiting for a BPO at that time, my connect with people, and especially when I had to tell my candidates that, hey, you did not make the cut, it's difficult, but I often became the chosen person on the team to break that difficult news, because I was told that I did it with a lot of uh, sensitivity and without hurting the other person's feeling, breaking their spirit, and keeping them engaged, so that they could come back to us once again. As I grew older, as I had my children, I started realizing that yes, I'm good at this. I'm good at being there for people, listening to them, and holding space as in a non-judgmental space for them. And I'm everybody's agony aunt and favorite person to come and share their secrets with and confidences with. And as a coach, which I have now been for almost 10 to 15 years, uh, when before even the certifications, etc., came in, I've had people, trust me enough to break down, share their innermost, problems, obstacles, challenges, their emotions, share their emotions with me without ever feeling judged, or,
yeah.
the fact that I'm going to not keep their confidence. So that gave me, I kind of felt honored and privileged.
Mm,
And then I said, how can I take this forward? And by then, coaching came in, and that's when it happened.
Perfect. I think I definitely like, before moving on to Senthil, I definitely relate with that. The honor of, I think that's something to do with emotional intelligence as well, and we'll delve more into it. That somebody feels so close to you, that they can share everything with you, even if they are strangers. That's what the coaching business is, if we call it a business, is all about. Like, you're meeting a
Yeah,
stranger, uh,
right.
and he's ready. Like, you have that empathetic concern for them, wherein they can talk about everything to you. And you do feel privileged. Let's move on to Senthil. When did you feel that spark from being a scientist and going into the coaching um, realm?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask as well. Interesting as well. So, I had a calling for teaching right from my higher education days. I wanted to teach, but what to teach was something that keeps coming back to me. Initially, I thought, let me teach technology, science and technology. That's when I went into because to be a professor, you need to finish your PhD and stuff. So I took a research path in that pursuit. But then one of the incidents in Chennai, Ennur oil spill happened. So where people are using mugs and buckets to remove the oil that fell on the ocean. Though there were technology that have been designed out there, people are not using it. So I realized the problems around me are very sociological. And that was the time a book also was written by Shail Kumar, an IIT Kharagpur alumnus, Building Golden India. that India has a huge demographic dividend, but if you don't work on this space, it will become a demographic disaster. So that point kind of triggered me to stop all my technological pursuit and start something in the space of the sociology. Like I started with the liberal arts. That's how I started. But then as I went deeper, the search for what to teach always kept pondering me. And that's when I discovered facilitation and coaching, where it's more of facilitating. Like instead of telling them what to do or teaching them what you have, can I facilitate change? What they really want out of them? So I mean, that's how things got evolved in me, like moving from what to teach to how to facilitate learning. And coaching and facilitation are two powerful tools to make that happen, because everybody have their own aspirations. So we should not go with a specific mindset that I want to teach them this. Let me facilitate the learning process. And that's how I got discovered into these two domains. And still the search is going on.
Yeah.
How do I facilitate? What trigger questions can I ask? So that discovery is still on. Yeah. That's my journey.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. There is something always deeper within us that makes us feel that way. You know, to go into coaching or to go into learning, facilitation. While we do this, there's a small segment that I would want to add here is to just do a mental checkup with the both of you, and just like I would just like to ask a question, and then it's up to you to say it or to answer it or not, right? So, for example, what's something that you guys have done very very recently, maybe like in this year from January to March, that have put you out of your comfort zone, and then how did you feel about that? If you want me to start, I can also start. It's completely all right.
No, I think I'll take this one.
Yes, okay.
And I'd love to start. Is that okay, Senthil?
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
I'm
because
curious.
I'm brimming with this experience and I'd love to share it with the two of
Yeah.
you. So this year, my family and I decided to end the new year on a slightly different way than we normally
Yeah.
do.
Hmm.
So we went to Rishikesh, and we were there at this beautiful resort, which was right on the Ganges. And as a family, we always do a lot of these adventure sports. It's our thing as a family. So it was so cold. I think you all remember how cold it has been this year. So on the 31st of December, what we decided to do was to go for white river rafting. Now, I am a first time rafter. I've never been for rafting ever. And I do know that it takes a lot of skill and it takes a lot of guts to kind of, negotiate the rapids and things. And we signed up for, I think, the 8 or 10 kilometer one, which was like, in terms of difficulty level, a 3.3 plus, which is higher than your normal average one. You won't believe it. It just kept getting tougher and tougher and tougher. At one point, I was leading. You have to, there are two leads and two sides, and I was leading, and there was a particular way that we needed to row, and I was rowing as though my life depended upon it. And then I was told, jump into the water. It was ice cold water. We were
In
in these
Rishikesh.
crazy rapids going up and down. I don't know what came over me. I did not think twice. I just parked my oar and I was the first person who jumped into the water and held on to the rope on the side. And there was we were 8 of us in the raft, and several of them looked at me that, what just happened here? And there I am in the water for a moment. This was the biggest shock I've ever received. Imagine plunging into ice cold, minus degrees. And then the exhilaration that came with it. I think I've conquered a whole lot of fears by doing that.
Yeah. It's a
And
free ice bath also.
Yes, amongst other things. So it was absolutely amazing. And then I was, when once I was in, the others jumped in as well. So I think it was the most beautiful and the most daring thing I've ever done. And I'm glad I didn't give it a second thought.
That is something, Moshmi, like doing it in the summers is still okay.
Yeah,
Doing it in winters is a different
winter,
kind of. Uh,
31st of December.
Yeah, but it builds. That's such a beautiful thing that usually I told you this that usually people party on the New Year's and
Yes,
but I think this is something so beautiful that you can just go out with your family. Your children are also okay with it, and you're doing something for yourself and just as a family. It's so beautiful to see because this is we both of us at least like live in the Delhi area and how it is during New Year's is just too hectic. So it's good to do
really.
something for yourself. Senthil, over to you.
So, I mean, you might be knowing as well. So,
Yes.
I always had this like a search, like you can call it a spiritual search or something. Like because we as humans are continuously evolving, right? Like we're growing in every aspect, but still, though the facilities are increasing, the physical facilities are growing in every other aspect as we can imagine, but the level of quotient of relationship within the people, the level of happiness in the people seems to be decreasing over the years. That's what I'm seeing as a pattern, at least in my point of view. Though there are a lot of facilities out there, a lot of adventure activities, like as Moshimi was saying, so many physical comfort, but still the people are kind of unhappy. The diseases are increasing. The police force is increasing because of lack of trust within the society. Military is increasing. Arms race is growing. So that question always kept me like, what is our purpose? Why are we having this tough life? So I went on spiritual searches for many years. And this year, I came across a philosophy by Sri Nagaraj. It's called Madhya Darshan. So that philosophy disturbed me completely. Like it shook me completely, and I'm still in that shock from that philosophy. It's it's take like it's modifying my entire workspace. Like my work, the way I approach work is different now. The way I approach life is different. So it's one such philosophy uh, that has completely put me out of my comfort zone and making me question a lot of things. And yeah, that's something that happened to me very recently. Now that you asked, I think yeah, it's a very powerful one.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even sometimes I just sit down and think about these things. I've told you as well, like the whole your unschooling thing, or like just the spiritual journey of how, as people, we feel. We have everything around us. All the materialistic goods around us, and we have so many things to make us happy. But somewhere, I don't know, feeling of happiness is not true. You may be lying to yourself. So it's really important to think about these things. Some people just say that, okay, no, enough. I have anyway so many problems in my life. Why should I think about these things that are happening anyway, right? And but it's good to think about these things and focus on what you truly believe, because only that can bring you true happiness. Uh, Perfect. All right. My comfort zone story is a little less than this. I had avoided going for any fitness journeys or any fitness for myself, and I love that for my own mental health and my body. And for the past 3 months, I had been avoiding it because of work, because of whatever technology things that we are doing. So that is also something that is out of my comfort zone, because I've always been um, into books and studies, but never into major technology as in such. So building something for this company through technology has been a hectic journey. So that is something that is out of my comfort zone. Perfect. Let's move on to, because all of this, why I asked you this, getting out of your comfort zone, and just about yourself, and why did we all decide to get into coaching, is more about emotional intelligence. Um And while we begin this journey of understanding emotional intelligence, of course there are different styles and different ambits of emotional intelligence. It's just not singular, it has a lot of other things, and I think Moshmi can explain, and Santhil, you can also explain more about it. But what I would like to ask for everybody listening as well, that what exactly is emotional intelligence, right? We will be discussing about empathy, but what exactly is emotional intelligence? And maybe you can give one experience of your life where you have been faced with a certain situation and you had that understanding that this is where emotional intelligence in me has triggered, because this is such a inward right now. I go on dates, I go on anything, I see people, girls mentioning, at least my man should be emotionally intelligent. We go to leaders, we go to high ups, we go to the HR, we go to CHRO, they always say that my team has to be emotionally intelligent. That's where inclusivity and everything will come in. So that's where I would want to understand, personally and professionally, what does emotional intelligence actually mean? We can begin from that. Moshmi, over to you.
Emotional intelligence. Lovely. So now let's demystify this. Couple of things that people attach to this word emotional intelligence is that it means not feeling emotions, not having emotions, and not feeling anger, being happy all the time.
Hmm.
It's not that at all. An emotionally intelligent person, and I pride myself on being one, is somebody who feels all the emotions, the entire array of emotions that we see on the wheel of emotions, but is in a position to manage themselves, feel it, be aware of their emotions, and manage it intelligently, so that not only they themselves are not overcome by those emotions, they're also able to, put their best self forward when it comes to other people's emotions and dealing with those emotions. So it's a question of being self-aware, being from self-awareness, having the capacity to manage your emotions, having the capacity, and if you are fulfilled within, if you feel, what should I say, emotionally grounded inside, automatically you're able to, put it out for others and go that extra mile to be there for whoever you are interacting with, which leads to what we call social awareness. What is it that the other person is feeling, thinking, going through? And all of this together leads to what we call relationship awareness, or leadership. So that's where all the good stuff about leadership comes in, and that's when we say, and leader must be emotionally intelligent. And we'll talk in more details about this, but I hope I was able to put it simply, enough for everybody to understand. Self-awareness, which leads to self-management, self-awareness, which leads to social awareness, and all of this together leading to uh, relationship management. So that, in a nutshell, is what emotional intelligence is. And it is feeling happy, feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling all the feels, but just managing them better.
Santhil, any questions, anything that you want to add?
I like the way Moshe put it, like being emotionally ready doesn't mean being happy all point of time. Like these are emotions, right? Like how do I manage my emotions? Like there will be moments of anger as well, even for an emotionally intelligent person. And I think I'm really happy that Moshmi put it as the first thing. Like it's not about being happy; it's about managing your emotions. And I also feel that, like, I also want to quote Jinan. Like Jinan is one of the primary figures in the space of unschooling space. So whenever somebody asks him what is mindfulness, what is this emotional intelligence, he kind of comes at them and says, no, these are words that humans have kind of introduced. uh, Emotional intelligence, a lot of stuff out there, but they don't even understand what that really means. Like what is that mindfulness? Like the literate person are trying to learn the word, but not the world, is what he always repeats. And I think we are also getting into a similar structure by trying to create new definitions out there. But I think the relationship between the people are getting weaker and weaker as we go. Like, these are not there. Like, if you look at 10, 100 years back, these are all not there. Like,
Yeah.
these words are not there. Coaching was not there. But I think the happiness quotient in the people were way better than
Way
what
better.
it is today. And I think we have to get more into the nuances of what builds a relationship, what is trust between relationship. So those things are missing. And I think we have to make it very simplified rather than make it very higher. Like, these are, I call this emotional intelligence, these terms are higher order things. We have to understand what is trust. Uh, those things what makes a relationship very strong. And once there is trust between the people, they eventually become emotionally intelligence, if at all, if you look at it. When there's trust between people, they understand each other, the relationship very strong. The question is, how do I build trust between each other? Yeah, that's what I would put it.
I mean, I do agree that words and definitions always complicate things rather than simplifying it. The more definitions that we have, I mean, I just like to give a practical experience to this, and maybe then can ask you that, because I understood what you said, for sure. It's managing your emotions in a better way. So I had it, of course, like this just passed down from my parents, getting angry on, of course, Indian parents, North Indian parents, always loving, but getting angry on like small things, so they couldn't manage their emotions really well at that point of time. And Senthil said that at that point of time there was no emotionally intelligent beings, like that word wasn't there, but they were still happy about it. The word wasn't defined, the word coaching wasn't defined. So I think somewhere the anger of that just passed down to me as well, wherein about like 3 2 3 years ago, or even somewhere now, couldn't manage that anger in a better way till the time that somebody came and told me that there is this problem that you get irritated and angered on certain small issues really easily, right? And then I would just like to ask the both of you actually for this, like, how can somebody who has been facing that kind of an emotion, or maybe some other emotion, right, not just anger but some other emotion that they are facing, how can they manage that emotion? What can help them understand that emotion first, that they are facing something like this? Because for me, I was lucky enough that somebody else pointed it out, and then they said that you have to work on it, and then I could manage my emotion by understanding that these are certain trigger points that affect me. So let's just like to ask that really quickly, like, how can a person identify and then manage those emotions?
Sure. Sentinel, why don't
Yeah.
you go ahead? You're on a spiritual journey. I would love to hear what you have to say. I'll go next.
Thank you, Moshmi. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to take it as well. So it's not my answer basically. Like, whatever answers I'm giving are coming from my uh, like philosophers, a guru who I've interacted with, and this is one question that keeps coming as well. How do I manage my anger? How do I manage my lust? Because when you're in the spiritual school, people come up with those questions as well, right? And in most of the spiritual schools out there, the solution given to you is go sit and do meditation. That's the way to control your emotions. And I fortunately got a very good guru who actually taught me how do I manage really emotions. So he gives an interesting anecdote. He asked about tongue, right? Uh, our tongue can sense all the taste, right? Like, it can taste sweet, it can taste salty as well, right? But there's a neutral state as well for our tongue. Tongue should remain in a neutral state, right? Like, it should not be in the state of sweet all the time. If the tongue is always sweet, it means you're having some disease out there, right? So there has to be a neutral state. The same thing goes with emotions as well. Like, we feeling that we should not have anger. It's like our tongue should not taste salty at all. Or our tongue should not face bitterness. It's like we should not get lustful thoughts as well. So these thoughts come to us. So these emotions happen to us. If you are in a very dark place, an unknown place, you tend to get fear. I should not get fear is meaningless. So emotions are like passing clouds. So these are like taste buds. They come and then go, and you should go to a neutral state. So aspiring for a state of no fear, no anger is actually meaningless. There is no such thing like that. And if you're pursuing for that, you will never reach that state. No matter how hard you do all your practices, you will never reach a state of no anger state. So understand that anger is also natural. When somebody is doing something that you don't like, you tend to get angry, and it's natural. You are the only thing is you have to accept it. And how do I express my anger to the other person is different, right? Like I should not get anger is meaningless, but how do I express it in a way that is uh, that is relationship building, uh, that is very compassionate, is something
Yeah.
that we can learn. And yeah, that's what I would put it. How do I manage emotions?
I think that's where empathy also comes in, as you said, right? Like how for at least in my personal experience, like empathizing with the other person helped me. Uh, of course, anger is there. It's not. As you said that it's completely okay to be angry. It's an
Correct.
emotion. If you are emotionless, then you might as well be just a dead body. It's emotions that help us um certain decisions and make us feel something. And anger is not a not I wouldn't say it's a bad emotion, but like how you express it to the other person is absolutely very important. And I think that's where you understand the other person and where they come from, and your language changes. I think that is very, very much necessary. Yes, Moshmi, please.
Lovely. I mean, hearing the two of you, it just feels so relatable. So, the first thing about managing emotions is to be okay with having them, right? That managing them is secondary. First and foremost, be okay with having the emotions that you're experiences. So self-awareness of what makes you feel like what is very important. Now, typically, our emotions like anger and happiness and sadness. Now, like Senthil said, and like you reiterated, Yash, they are all okay. They're all a part of us. So there's this beautiful mindfulness framework called RAIN, RAIN, where each letter forms a word, and it's an acronym essentially, explains this very beautifully. So first and foremost, when you're getting angry, recognize, or sad or whatever it might be, recognize what's happening to you, what you're feeling. Recognizing comes out of self-awareness. So if you're self-aware, you are able to understand what you're experiencing, and you are able to at least label the emotion, and the emotion and the sub emotions. Okay, I'm feeling this. This could be it, but then I'm also feeling X, Y, Z. So there are a lot of emotions that you feel, but which we put under the, let's say, under the umbrella of anger. Could be hurt, could be disappointment, could be frustration, a whole bunch of things, but we just call it anger. So recognize what you're going through. That's number one. Second is accept it. Very important. Allow it and accept it. Just because it's anger does not mean that it's not a part of you. It's very much a part of you. So accept it, allow it to run its course. Stay with it and feel whatever it's making you feel. Then investigate where all it's manifesting itself. Like I know when I get angry, my cheeks become red, and my head starts pounding. So investigate it, but do that with kindness because it's a part of you. Okay, it's not something which is separate from you. Last but not the least, bring in the awareness that it's an emotion and you don't identify with it. So you negate the emotion. It is not describing you. It is that emotion is not you completely. It is just a part of you. And once you've done that, you go through rain, and it helps you to actually, uh, you know, engage your prefrontal cortex to a certain extent, which is the thinking part of your brain, and dislodge yourself from the amygdala, which is from where all these deep rooted emotions are coming. And as you start going through RAIN, automatically you start feeling much better. Okay. And for me, one of the things that really works is you know, the breath. Focusing on the breath is something which is very, very important. I use it a lot. If I'm able to just manage my breathing, I'm able to actually let that emotion wash over me and be more accepting of it. So this is something that, I practice. I practice rain very, very often. And another thing that is very close to my heart, but it takes a little getting there, is detached attachment. Okay. So I follow a few of the Buddhist, philosophy. So detached attachment is something that I practice. There's a fine line between detached attachment and, selfishness. So that's the material for another podcast. We talk about it.
No,
But
no, we will definitely get into it, mostly
yeah,
because this is something that is absolutely important. And
right.
while you were saying this, before we go into the depths of empathy and talk about leadership styles and all of this, this was just in my brain that what if you get like and remembering from what Senthil also said, right? Like emotions are there with everybody, but what if you get overwhelmed by these emotions and that affects your judgment, right? There's so many times and so many people I have met throughout my life that their decisions and the way they converse, they get too emotional, right?
Mm,
The emotions are on overdrive. There's a trigger point and then the emotions are on overdrive, and maybe that's where the detached attachment comes in, because
yeah.
a lot of people have said that, and I also say that to a lot of people. There's a thin line between selfishness, like completely detaching yourself, and a detached attachment, which is always good for you. Doesn't mean you should love anybody less, or doesn't mean that you should not care about anybody less, about either your fellow beings or your partner or anything like this. But definitely we'll get into this, maybe later in the podcast. Why we talk about empathy as a part of emotional intelligence is very important for me to even uh, go to Microsoft and talk about Satya Nadella. And in his interview, there was an emphasis on empathy and understanding that has been credited with revitalizing the whole company's culture altogether. And we see how good Microsoft is doing as well. Um, Onto that itself. Firstly, is empathy a part of being emotionally intelligent? And what exactly is empathy? If I know we hate definitions and words, but to just make it clear to the people as well, like what exactly is empathy, and empathy can be different for different people, but that's what I would like to focus on.
Sure. So empathy is very much a part of emotional intelligence. So if you remember, I spoke about self-awareness, self-management. I then spoke about social awareness. Empathy is a part of social awareness. When you are in control of your emotions, you are in a position to understand and see and experience the other person's emotions. Check
Yeah.
in with the other person as to what their emotions are. So putting yourself in the other person's shoes, understanding their perspective, is essentially what empathy is. Now, again, a fine line between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is, feeling what the other person is feeling and joining them in that experience, and experiencing it in the same way the other person is, thereby not really being of help to them. Whereas empathy is definitely understanding and feeling what the other person is feeling. However, keeping that bit of yourself away from the real experience so that you are able to come up with a set of actions which will support the other individual. So that's the fine line between sympathy and empathy. I hope I was able to explain it as simply as possible.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Senthil, anything from you, or anything you want to ask Moshmi?
I don't think I'm good with that explanation. So in a very simple manner, if I want to put it very simply, like it's uh, if there are two people who are conversing, and if one person has a better understanding, and if the other person lacks better understanding, so the one who has better understanding should take responsibility. Like when I mean understanding in a big space, I mean in a bigger picture. If I feel the other person lacks certain understanding of the real world or how the human relationship exists, I should take the responsibility. Since I have a better understanding, the competence is missing in the other person. I had a better understanding and better competency, so it's my responsibility to make them come up or improve their understanding. So if I have that understanding within me, uh, I would be more empathetic to the other person rather than
Absolutely.
fighting why he doesn't have understanding.
Hmm.
And if I had that mindset, like, why is he not understanding what I'm trying to say? If I go into that mindset, that leads to struggle. But it's my responsibility to improve the other person understanding. I mean, it's not, it's a responsibility. If you want, you can take it. But if you understand that the competence is missing in the other person, uh, you will feel better as a person as well, and you will feel more empathetic towards the other person. Yeah, I'm not sure if I put this very clearly because the
No,
element of understanding is
I know
also.
where you're coming from, Senthil. Yash, with your permission, I'd like to share a story
Yeah,
here, a
yeah,
personal
yeah,
story,
definitely.
because what Senthil said makes perfect sense, to me because of what I'm just about to share with you. So about 8 years ago, my husband was extremely unwell and literally in the ICU fighting for his life. Now, typically, what happens is when you're in the ICU and the doctors come to see the patient, and then they come out, and then they call you, and you sit with two or three of the doctors, and they give you an update on how the patient is doing. Now, for them, for every doctor, and I completely understand their point of view, that they cannot get involved emotionally involved with every patient, and really, because they've got so much on their mind. However, if I really look at the caregiver, in that case, it was me, sitting there in front of this panel of doctors, trying to make sense of the medical jargon, but completely at a loss to understand, and also not having that bandwidth to process all that information download that is being given to me. But as far as the doctor is concerned, they've done their bit. They've given me an update, with using the language and using all the medical terminologies, and they've moved on to the next patient. Because it might be the first instance for me to face the panel of doctors, but for them, I would probably be the fifth or the sixth patient because ICU is full of them. So at that particular time, all I needed was probably simpler language, a little bit of reassurance, and somebody understanding, um, you know, my need that, okay, as the caregiver, I need a little reassurance more than a download of medical jargon. So I think that's what Central was trying to say, is that my inability to understand the medical jargon should not have been held against me. But if you truly wanted to help me, you could have just made it really simple. And this happens again and again. With
Yeah.
no malice intended, we need to bring a little heart into these conversations.
No, most definitely, and this happens in workplace. more than anything
Yeah.
else. We all have worked in a corporate environment, or in an environment where we have taken, instructions from people, and sometimes, as you said, like, what they understand is difficult for us to understand, or what they speak is difficult for us to understand, and then we are too scared to even go up to them and
Right.
repeat or ask them. And it has happened with a few of my clients as well, being in this company also. So yeah, I mean that makes complete sense, and thank you for sharing that story also, Moshmi. I just want to move on to a little bit of leadership styles, right, and how, let's move on to the professional side of it, and then we'll come back to the personal side of it
Sure.
again. And Senthil, please feel free to ask any question or anything in between, as well, wherever you think it is necessary. Um, so while I was reading and researching about this topic, I came upon on the empathy triad and the distinct types of empathy. So if we can just elaborate on that as well, and how it can help the leaders to understand the empathy triad.
Sure.
Not just leaders, for
So,
example. Like I keep saying leaders, but everybody actually in the working
yeah,
space needs to understand what
correct.
exactly it is.
Absolutely. So again, I'll try and simplify it as much as possible. So there are essentially three different types of empathy. The first is cognitive empathy. Then there is emotional empathy. And then the third one is what we call empathetic concern. Let me see.
Yeah,
Senthil, the third, do you remember the third uh, aspect of it, of empathy? It's
it's
just, anyway, I'll come back
it,
to
it
it.
is empathetic concern. It is
Empathetic
empathetic
concern,
concern. Yeah.
empathetic concern. Yeah. Or empathetic empathy, so as to say.
Mm, mm,
Now, interestingly, the cognitive part of empathy is when you are when you understand the other person's perspective, you understand what they are thinking. So for example, there is somebody, one of your colleagues has just received some really bad news, right? And you can see them visibly shaken up. So, and you all are just going to walk into a presentation, which is really important. So the client is there, and this colleague of yours has really heard some bad news. So at that point, cognitive empathy will help us to um, understand what that person is going through, even if we haven't received that news ourselves, and probably think what the other person is thinking. The next one, emotional empathy, which is the next stage, will actually it's very we call it your pain in my heart. So I'm
mm,
actually going and feeling what you are feeling. And the last one is compassionate empathy, wherein which we call empathetic concern, wherein we translate the feelings into a set of actions which the other person would benefit from. So at that point, my cognitive empathy will help me to understand that my colleague is probably not in a position to go out there and start the presentation. My pain, emotional empathy will help me, uh, you know, uh, put myself in his place and probably uh, understand it that if he goes out there and starts the presentation, we might not be able to, get to the outcome that we would like to. And hence, as compassionate empathy or empathetic concern, I volunteer to start the presentation on my colleague's behalf, allow him or her to manage their emotions, and then come jump in and take over from whenever they feel that they are ready to. So this is what the triad is all about. It's not just about thinking. It's about understanding it. It's about feeling what they're feeling and translating it into actions, which would help the other person.
Okay. I have a small question, and while researching this, I just thought about it as well. Like as you were explaining, does the three of them just go together? Like they're not separate parts. Like is it so that there's one situation and you can apply all three of them, and it's good to understand and learn about all three of them and how you feel about and know about them, or in different situations different kinds of this triad can be used?
So, Yash, these are again, empathy is it's an abstract transferable skill, right? It's a behavior, it's a characteristic of a person. Sometimes I also define it as a value. Empathy is a value.
Hmm.
So, is it really cut and dry that, okay, first I'll feel cognitive and then I will feel emotional and then I will feel compassion? No. It really depends. If you look at it from the leadership perspective, it really depends on your style of leadership as well as the situational leadership that is required. So, if there is a time when time is of the essence, there is a crisis, and I have to do what I need to do, I might just jump in as the leader and just translate it into actions, which in the long run, my team would benefit from,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
In that moment, it might not come across as empathy.
Okay.
Right. So, from a leadership perspective, sometimes emotional intelligence becomes a lonely place to be in, as in, on top of the pyramid for leaders.
Hmm.
But yes, you can feel all three, you can feel two, or you can feel only one, but you will feel. I mean, they overlap into each other, even though we have very distinct definitions for each.
Okay. Just another one here while hearing this. Uh, what very basic question, but what is the need to understand and to um, learn about this? Like, what is the need that we needed to define all these three kinds of empathy? Is there some purpose to it that somebody can benefit from it? Like what is the need if it's so abstract, empathy, right? What is the need to divide it into three, or not even divide, like to talk about this triad uh, and then give out this information?
Sure. So I'll start with the last one first. Empathetic concern. What is empathetic concern? It's empathy translated into actions. So very often there are people who are not always able to articulate their feelings as leaders, right? They're
Okay.
not able to articulate their feelings, or we just come under that typical stigma that is attached to leadership positions, that you're supposed to be very autocratic and really very unemotional, and you're not able to articulate your empathy and understanding of the other person's situations, or that you feel their pain or whatever they are going through, even if they made a mistake, they've lost a client, whatever it might be. But compassionate leadership, or compassionate empathy, allows us to translate that into actions which help us to communicate it in an easier fashion.
Hmm.
So very often if I'm not able to say it, I'm able to demonstrate it through my actions. So my team, somebody on my team has lost out on a big deal or a contract or a deal, and they walk in and they feel they're shattered completely, because and they expect us as the leader to really take it out on them. But then at that point, you hear them out, you give them the kind of support that they want, you probably give them a glass of water, lend them a ear, and essentially through your actions sit down and understand exactly how they went about it and how probably they could have done it differently. So through your actions, you're able to demonstrate that you know it's okay, I feel your pain, and I'm going to help you go through this, and probably make sure that you don't repeat it once again by having this discussion with you as to how you can do it differently.
Okay. So
So
then what
I
do you
hope that
feel?
helped.
Yeah. What do you feel about it? Like, why do we need to understand these? Like, why do we need to understand this? And I know you had something to say as well. So sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
no.
yes.
I wanted to say this. Like I have a very
Yes.
different take on it as well. See, I wanted to address this in a metaphorical way. So let's see if that is connecting really powerfully. See, I call these behaviors, like looking at behaviors of how do I behave with them in an empathetic way, like these tertiary things, like splitting them into these things are more like like learning the shadow, like studying the shadow. I call this entire spectrum of science itself as shadow science. Some people call it commercial science, but I call it shadow science, where we are not studying the object, we are studying the shadow. Like uh, I'm putting it metaphorically, so let's kindly bear with me. See, when an object moves around, the shadow kind of follows along with them. But unless and until we study the object, the the shadow doesn't make any sense at all. Right now, we're saying to do all the shadow works, like do this behavior, do that behavior. But all these behaviors, all the shadow will follow you if the object is actually understood really well. So the essence we have to understand is, I think that object is for me trust. If trust between two people is established really well, that object, wherever it goes, it brings out all the shadows with it. When there is light, shadow falls to you. You don't have to follow the shadow. You're following the wrong person. You're trying to replicate a behavior, trying to build empathy. It cannot happen that way. Once there is trust established, you don't have to worry about all these tertiary compassion, all these things. You not be worried at all. Which will happen by default. When somebody is in a state of distress, you can sense it when there is trust. You don't have to think from their point of view. They will come and express it to you itself. If they believe that you have the trust, if both of you have the trust within you, you don't have to do the guesswork at all. Things will follow naturally. The problem is trust. Even in things of psychological safety, one of the core pillars is trust. So what is trust? How do I build the trust between two people? This is the crux. This is the object that we need to study, and not the shadow. It's my it's strong opinion. I feel this is very strong as well. But I kind of, like, this is my opinion on it. It's strong,
Yes.
but yeah.
I feel like from hearing like both of you, right, and seeing both as a neutral, seeing both the sides, right. Like, of course, there is. Of course, the question was mine. Like, what is the necessity to learn all of this, cognitive, empathetic concern, this and that, while as humans we can just build upon trust and make it that pillar, and then everything comes and follows that. That is the primary goal. But I also do think that while actions, or while acting, why do we learn anything? We learn anything because while we are performing an action, we are a little more mindful about it. uh, you know uh, if I'm talking about cognitive empathy, or if I'm talking about empathetic concern or anything like that, like when I'm performing an action, I know that this is something that is relatable to that. And it's just my perspective, and I'm just more mindful about the action that I am doing. So for me to go into the nuances of empathy, and to go into the triads and everything, is for me to understand that what my action really is, what is the purpose of this action, and to give it a certain name, a certain aspect attached to it, and how I can better that aspect is something that why we delve deeper into a subject, because there has been so much research on it, and all of the research is a guidance. Yes, of course, until, like you said, trust is the biggest pillar, but all this research has been done to provide a guidance towards that, towards all of my actions. uh, if I didn't learn something in college or school, and I just blurted anything out, I would never be mindful about what am I actually doing. It would lead to, for me, my perspective, it would lead to confusion. Yes.
I'll jump in with this thought here as well. See, doing this practices, doing this behaves in a mindful manner will improve the thing. It's like fake it until you make it. I don't even believe in that point at all, that faking it till you make it. See, for example, let's say, see, because this research, I mean, I'm not questioning the research. The research has been done. The research has been looking at the behaviors when two people, when some organizations are really doing well, when relationships are very strong. What are some of the behaviors that
Yeah.
are happening in those organizations? And if it is not strong, what are some of the behaviors? So they are trying to correlate all these behaviors and giving it to you. Like if you do these things, this might happen. But it's completely wrong. It's the shadow. You're doing the shadow work. See, for example, if two people are in a very unhealthy relationship, like they're not trusting each other and they're sitting close to each other, if they're watching a very happy movie, or you're keeping the air conditioner in a very cool, these are some of the tips people give. How do I negotiate better with the client, make sure the ambient atmosphere is very cool? I mean, these are given in research article itself. Keep the ambient atmosphere cool, offer them a coffee, offer them something sweet so that the deal gets happening. A lot of technical research has been done and people are giving it to you. But when the trust is not between the people, no matter how cool the ambient atmosphere is, there is tension between both of them. So we are not addressing the tension. We are trying to address the behaviors. And my personal point of view, I think no matter what we do, how mindfully we do, we are going on a wrong direction. That's what I
Okay.
kind of feel. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay, so I'm going to jump in here for a moment, Yash. So Senthil has been talking about trust, and yes, and I've been hearing you, Senthil. Yes, and I felt the energy when you said, nothing is, it's all incomplete without trust. So very often, if you remember, we speak about this trust equation, or how do we build trust, and how do we know that we are in a relationship that is trust, or trust one is found trustworthy. So very simply put, it is the sum total of credibility, reliability, and intimacy, and what takes away from it is your self orientation. So, to explain this very simply, how credible you are, or in terms of qualifications, your subject matter expertise, how reliable or dependable you are, how close do I feel to you? What is our relationship? And it's a sum total of this. And what takes away from it is how I see you in terms of, self orientation. How selfish are you? And that's where I think, Yash, you remember we spoke about detached attachment. That's a very fine line. And Adam Grant has spoken about also the giver, taker, and the matcher. So I think it's very important for us to build that relationship of trust, be somebody who is trustworthy, and then get into the next aspect of leadership, empathy, and all the good stuff.
most definitely. I also think to build trust, you need to, like as you said, like there are three. We're again going into segments, right? Like trust also has certain segments to it, and being mindful of that segments build that trust. So we can go on and on about it, but I, of course, because see,
I would like
it's
to jump in here. Like,
yeah, yeah.
see, even I was using these frameworks early times, credibility, reliability. But see, if you really ask what is trust, I think it's not from me, but it's one of my mentors who gave a very powerful definition for trust as well, and that stayed with me the moment I listened to him. So he says, when you want to trust the other person, trust is that the other person wants you to be happy. I mean, intention. If you believe that the other person's intention is they want you to be happy, that's trust. If you believe in it, that the other person wants me to be happy. If I believe Yash wants me to be happy, then there is trust between both of us. Intention wise, not even competency wise. And that's where he differs. There is intention and there is competency. Every person wants other person. Like, do you want yourself to be happy, right? We all want ourselves to be happy. I want, you also want. And does Yash want Sendil to be happy? Yes,
Do I?
right. Like
Yes, of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
Yes.
of course, yes. Even Ascendal wants Moshmi to be happy. Like you can ask n number of people, they would say this, but still, you see, it's not the case, right? Like people feel I don't trust that person. That is there every point of time. But if you ask them, yeah, I want them to be happy because everybody wants the other person to be happy. The only challenge is they're not competent enough. Are you competent enough to make yourself happy? You don't even know. Are we competent enough to make ourselves happy? Then the question comes that are you competent enough to make the other person happy? So the challenge here is competency is missing in the other person, but not the intention. But the problem is we are doubting the intention. We are doubting the other person do not want me to be happy, and that's where the problem starts. Understanding that everybody wants the other person to be happy, but they do not have the competency. That they really want to do the good work, but they do not have the competency to do the good work. It's not that they want to make me fail this project. They didn't do the work, but that's where the problem is. The manager feels they are not listening to me. They don't want. They're not. They're disrespecting me. He wants me to fail this project. He wants this project to go. This intention, doubting the intention, is the main process of relationship problems.
But what do you mean by the competency is not there? Like the correct understanding is not there to how to achieve that level of intention. Like my intention is there, but do I not have the tools? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, tools. Yeah, we do not
Yeah,
have
Yeah,
the
so I'll
capability.
I'll just jump in here. We're doing a lot of jumping here. So what
good for
I'm saying
fitness.
is, yes, so much for fitness. I think what Center is saying that there is this incongruency between words and actions. While I want you to be happy, I doing what it I need to do in terms of my actions to uh, ensure that you you find that happiness. So my manager, I lost the deal. Did my manager feel that I've lost it on purpose? I did not do my job, or uh, was it seen as a genuine, uh, problem or some, something that could have been done differently? So I think that's what Santa is trying to say. Santa, did we get that?
Yeah, in some way that's what I meant as well. So one of
Yeah.
the problem why this lack of competence is are as a human race we are pursuing for being special. The scoring first rank in a class is considered special in a classroom, right? Like excellence is not being pursued at all. Everybody understanding a concept is not something we are pursuing after. We're looking for special. We're looking for people with the longest mustache, giving them Guinness record. There's nothing excellent about that person, right? But you're praising that person for the specialness. So, as a human race,
Yeah,
this being special, being this unique,
driving.
being this
Uniqueness.
Yeah,
monopoly, we always want to be unique and separate, and that's one of the that's not the right way to go about as well. So, and
definitely. Like it's called, right, what in the slangest of languages, it's called being the main character of the
Hmm.
world. Everybody wants to become the main character and do something unique and get that attention to themselves. Uh, I I do agree with most of what you said, Senthil, but see, everybody, of course, like as we go into empathy as well, everybody has a different perspective and everybody learns very differently. You know, we talked about, and quickly I'll move on with my story as well onto this and the next question. Um, but just to complete this, and of course I might not be completing, but I'm just putting my thoughts forward, like that effort into intention, right? And that effort is for me to understand and being mindful of the learnings that I'm doing for you, right? uh just for me. Okay, so for example, my intention is to make you happy, but or my intention is to have your trust, by making you happy or something like that. The kind of effort that I'm putting into uh, understanding that what are the things that I can do, because my intention is very pure, but my competency is not there, right? So I'm learning certain things that can help me achieve that intention, right? And going back to my point, why do we learn about these certain small things, right? And everybody's perspective is very very different. Like so many people have debated about it, but it's on how you want your intention to be fruitful. For me, it would be that I want to learn these certain nuances so that I can improve my competencies and align my intention to my competencies, and you will see that effort from me, right? In relationships, for example, uh, personal relationships, right? Like not manager leadership or anything like that, but the kind of effort that you're putting in into changing yourself to the intention that you have already told the person means a lot to that person, and that's where the person's trust is with you. And that's where, when we go into coaching or when we go into certain programs like this, that's why they share a lot with you, right? Because now they trust you. So just achieving that by putting in the effort of understanding the other person, and staying true to your intention, I feel that's where these nuances come from. That's just my perspective. Perfect. We can definitely like go on about it.
Yeah.
Then it will be just 4 hours worth of just that debating on this. But it was a good definition of empathy. I feel like it is really important, and it is an abstract, as we talked about, as Senthil mentioned. At the end, your intention does matter a lot, and what you do behind that intention matters even more, as well. And amazing explanation of what cognitive empathetic concern and emotional empathy is. Okay, so I just would like to tell you a short story, that the Harvard Business Review paper had, and there was this neurosurgeon James Doty, and he was performing a surgery. So he's a surgeon, and he's performing a surgery on little boy's brain tumor. So the person that is assisting him gets distracted and pops a vein. So there is of course blood everywhere now, and the brain area is just covered with blood. Um, and there is absolutely, like, as a surgeon I wouldn't know, but of course, like, if it is just covered with blood, so it's hard to pinpoint to where the vein is. And he just goes in blindly, and he has no other option, and luckily he manages to do so. He clamps the vein. Um, so why I gave this example is, we are of course not surgeons, but we do own businesses. We do consult people that have businesses. We do consult leadership groups. My question is, how should we react to somebody, who is not performing well or makes a mistake? Because I have personal story also attached to this. I have had a massive debate about sectors, right? The manufacturing sector and service sector, wherein one of my friends said that there is no empathy that I can show to these guys, right? These guys need to be on their toes, because this is not your service sector, wherein it's all goody two shoes, and you are doing diversity and inclusion and being really empathetic towards everybody and placing them on the same pedestal, so that, but in a manufacturing business where there's a factory involved, where there are laborers involved that are working hard day, you have to have that discipline and punishment kind of a thing, because if they make a mistake, I have to do that. So that's my question. Like, if somebody is making a mistake or not performing that well, what is the right, or what is the best action that we can do?
Tough question, Yash, because there are no
There's no
there are
right.
no right answers.
Yeah.
There's no right answer.
Yeah, because
Uh,
sorry, Vashi, but for
no problem.
yeah, because, like, earlier, le- if I don't remember the book's name, but
Mhm.
it talks about discipline and punishment, and I did it in my law school, right? Where they talk about panopticon, where they talk about discipline and punishment. They see the prison system growing, right? But they still don't have the answer that what is the right way to go about it. Uh,
Right.
is it discipline and punishment? So they used to hang people, chop their arms off. The whole
Mhm.
community was gathered around, and they would just see that, okay, we can't do this mistake anymore, right? Like, because if we do this, this is the kind of effect, that a visual effect that we are going to have. But now
Mhm.
prison systems are very different. So So there's a huge debate going on there. So somewhere I can relate to that, in this sense that what we talk about empathy so much, right? And what is, maybe like, if someone in my company or someone of my juniors makes a mistake, what is the way to go about it?
Right.
Like,
So I'm going to attempt to answer it. Sorry,
sure.
Senthil,
Go
did
on,
you
go
want
ahead,
to
go on.
take it?
No,
No.
go
Okay.
on, go on. I'll go next.
So first and foremost, before before I'm putting myself in the manager's shoes and I see that somebody's really messed up badly. The first thing I do is manage myself and
Hmm.
not react or be impulsive in my response. So I need to manage myself, be calm, and then respond to the person rather than react to them. Now, this is where the trust comes in. If I trust my team and my team member, somewhere I will give them the benefit of the doubt and at least give them a chance to talk about, what, give us their side of the story rather than doing a lot of blame game and finger pointing. Okay. So this is what I would like to begin with, that at least hear the other person out, don't judge, don't jump in, don't be reactive, and you might just be able to make sense of what they are saying, but only if you are fully present and you've not been emotionally hijacked in that moment. Senthil, back to you.
Yeah, yeah. I also want to quote mine. Yeah, Yash is saying something.
Yes, just 1 second. Okay. I remember we did an exercise with one of our clients, right? It was something about this, that the first emotion that you feel is anger. uh, right, like when some of the juniors have, like, we did an elaborate workshop on this, and the first emotion that we feel is anger, but you should feel compassionate towards them, right? While answering the previous thing, if you can maybe throw a little more light on, like, if compassion is also the right way to go about it, the compassion and curiosity aspect. And yeah.
Sure. So now let's look at it. Let's take a step back and look at our team dynamic. Now, if the three of us are on a team and I am at a client's and I've come back, I've really messed up my session and it's not gone as it is supposed to have gone. And I come back to you and the client calls you and says, Josh, Moshmi was terrible. She was
Yeah.
terrible. How could you send me a quote like that? Right? Now, uh, Yash has two ways of responding to it. Either he can, and when I come back, either you can give me a dressing down, for losing out on such an important client, for not preparing for my session, and, in putting the entire blame on me, or you could actually sit me down, offer me a glass of water, and acknowledge what I'm going through, and then after having heard my side of the story, decide on how you are going to respond to it.
Hmm.
Right. So that's the compassion aspect. The compassion is not, forgiving me completely and not, holding me accountable. Compassion is about allowing the person to, have a say, creating that psychologically safe environment where mistakes are considered more of learnings than something that you're reprimanded and pulled up for. So
Perfect.
I hope I was able to explain that.
Yes, and I will continue on to something before, like after Senthil, with this point. Yes, Senthil.
Yeah. So my take on this is, there's a, my mentor says in Hindi, so I'll say it in Hindi. So he says, "सुख से बड़ा पुरस्कार नहीं है and दुख से बड़ा दंड नहीं है." So basically, it means there's no bigger award than happiness, and there's no bigger punishment than being sad, right? So if a person commits a mistake, would he be happy or would he be sad? He definitely would be
Be
sad,
sad.
right?
Yeah.
So being sad itself is a punishment for them, and that if they can feel sad at that point, that will lead to their growth. And don't have to give them punishment because by punishment you're feeling that it's okay. A punishment is a relief measure and not a solution at all. If somebody punishes me, then I'm okay to make some mistakes. So you're taking a relief measure to correct a system. The same thing goes with the reward system as well. Like, I want to increase the productivity of the company, so let me give you a reward for the best sales guy.
Hmm.
So he doesn't need a reward in first place. By giving a reward, you're actually creating so many disappointments in a lot of people. One person is happy, but 99 people are unhappy. So you're creating so many sadness which you do not want to create. But you're thinking that I'm trying to motivate my person, I'm trying to discipline the system. It doesn't happen that way. So the thing is that you have to make them feel sad. If they take up ownership of the company, they feel I have made a mistake that's going to cost my company. So how do I increase the ownership of that person is the question, and not about giving them punishment. Punishment is the release measure and not a solution. The solution is how do I make him feel the ownership? I'm doing it for myself. This is my company. Can you make that? Can you make them feel that?
Yeah.
If you cannot make them feel that, maybe you can try punishment as a relief measure, not as a
Yeah.
solution.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Very, very well said, Santil. Firstly, speak to hear you in Hindi and giving muhavras and all is just
Yes,
so. It's like a relic. We this is Santil is improving his Hindi.
absolutely. Senthil is quoting.
Is quoting
Amazing.
muhavras. This is just unbelievable. Only on this podcast this can happen. But it's so beautiful what you said. Very, very beautiful because I think a lot of people can relate to it, even if they're not high up in the service sector or MNC sector. I mean, a lot of people have, small businesses. And I think what you said about punishment, yes, sad, mistake, of course, human nature, make a mistake, you feel sadness that am I that dumb, or why am I making a mistake while others are just not making any mistakes. That's just human nature. But what was actually that hit me up was the fact that the reward system, right? And we take it as, oh wow, we are giving that best sale, and everybody does that, best salesperson of the year. If you've seen Rocket Singh, right, like that Ranbir Kapoor movie, I mean, that promotes that. And then you see everybody's faces around it, they're feeling sad. It's driving competition for sure, but see the toxicity of the workplace, the work culture is completely bad. And when Rocket Singh itself, or I don't know what his name is, Ranbir Kapoor itself, forms that group of four people. Have you seen it, Senthil?
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
So when he forms that group of four people, treats them equally, no best salesperson, no nothing, how much they do. Of course, that work ethic is amazing in that, but the work culture completely changes because of the fact that, as you said, they belong in that. They feel that that organization is theirs, right? So I feel that is compassion also, like making somebody
Absolutely.
believe in the fact that this company is as much yours as mine, right? And that's why I think learning and development is absolutely important, to share the values of the company, wherein the person definitely feels the fact that, this company is as much mine as it is theirs, and hierarchy is not there, or anything like that. They don't feel it. So
It's
that
very
was
difficult. It's not
beautiful.
easy.
It's very, very
Making everybody, it's very,
Very
you need,
difficult.
there are
Very
a lot
because
of
difficult.
things, transparency, a lot of things has to
yeah,
happen. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
so,
only solution. Other
yeah,
things are relief.
yeah, I mean, psychological safety is also absolutely important. Transparency is important. Open door policy is absolutely important. We're talking to a lot of clients recently. They talk about like what they have done to create that transparency between, uh, not having silos is absolutely important as well. Connectivity, but this is so easy to say it in words, and when we actually do it, it is really, really, really hard, because you're changing a structure of a company, which people are always resistant to change, but people who change will always do better. Um perfect. Going on to Moshmi's understanding of compassion as well. I th- just a personal experience of like having a coach not do so well, or maybe well, but the client giving a bad review of it, and happens in different companies as well. When a client gives a bad review and the manager then says that it is your problem, this and that. But actually being compassionate at that point of time helped me drive loyalty from that coach. That coach was always loyal, because I was there. I understood her perspective, what she was going through. I understood the client's perspective. Of course, I can't just tell the client that they are wrong. Of course, my ears are always there. I think that's the position that leadership holds, that they have to listen to both sides equally. So that is a really tough position to hold, but it definitely drives loyalty. What do you guys think about it?
100%. 100%. Because it's happened with me. Uh, it's mended, I mean, it's sealed one relationship and actually broken another one. I'll just quickly give you the story. This was during COVID time, and I was to do a program for a very big manufacturing giant. And last minute, I get to know that the COVID protocols are not being followed. Now, I am at that point when it came to COVID, I was anyway in that bracket of higher, susceptibility to COVID. So, I said, I'm sorry, I've been very clear on it. If you are not going to follow the protocols, I am not going to be able to do this program for you in person. I'm happy to do it virtually. But the client refused. And the sad thing was that I didn't get the backing from my associate partner who was coordinating the program. And later on, the client went and ahead and blacklisted me. But my associate partner, who in that moment told me, no, this is very wrong, and I'll be a support you on it, and it's very right, and you should not go ahead and do the program. Later on, I hear that I've been thrown under the bus and I've been blacklisted by that particular client, but my associate partner is continuing to work with them. Now, this is where they lost me forever. So I have absolutely almost stopped working with them. And in the same light, another associate partner, knowing the entire sequence of events, went ahead and said, no, it really does not matter to us. We are going to go ahead with this program with you, and we'll see how it goes. So of course it drives loyalty, and I know for a fact that I go above and beyond with the other partner, because I know they have my back. So I think that's something which is very important. If you have my back, I have yours. And that's where trust, loyalty, transparency, everything comes.
I think that that really answers my question about your story answers my question about how does trust drive performance, how being compassionate drive performance as well, because now your performance with the other organization would be way better because they have your back. They are compassionate enough. So um, that's really nice to hear. My last thing on this before we move on to listening, which is an absolutely integral part of empathy, and I just feel that that is something that is super close to my heart because I was never a good listener, but slowly in this coaching realm for the past 2 years, staying with coaches have made me a good listener. I hope so. I believe. And perfect. So my last question for this would be, we talk about compassion, but is there something that we can give the audience, that how can they respond with more compassion? What are the certain key areas that they can use in their vocabulary, or maybe just from their brain, like what they can think about when they are talking to other people and can drive more compassion?
No, you're looking at what are some of the ways to improve their listening. That's the question.
No, not listening. Listening is
No,
next.
no.
But how can you be more compassionate? Is my question. Like, what are the things? So, for example, if somebody is angry, right, and they have like an outburst, and as you said, like their employees are hurt and everything. But at that moment, if they think that okay, let me be compassionate, right? What is something that they can do? To drive that, because it doesn't come naturally to people, right? Something like compassion sometimes doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, actually. So what can they practice, or what can they do to drive more compassion?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to. Is there any set of behaviors for to improve compassion? I think if you think you really want to be compassionate, there, I think the behaviors will kind of fall in place because it's very contextual, right? It's depends on the context. Like in that context, I need to do the right thing there. In some places, it might be giving a sip of water for them to calm down, but it's not
Not
that you should go
yeah.
give them a sip of water to make them calm down. So it's very
Hmm.
contextual as well. But if there is a real, if you really want to be compassionate with the other person, I think
It comes
behaviors will fall
automatically.
in place. Yeah, I mean, there's no. Yeah, I think that's what I said
Okay,
initially
yes,
as well.
definitely. Initially you said that, but see, initially I also said this, that if a person doesn't feel like okay, I want to be compassionate towards you, but I don't have the tools. Like, I don't understand what compassion really is. I've never had that in my life. For example, our older generations, right? Like, older to older, there is a way that they did things, right? And I think they never understood what compassion really meant. They couldn't understand that if an act they're doing is compassion or not, or they're just doing it intrinsically, right? So what is that something that can drive that compassion? Because we talk about emotional intelligence as in such, right? Managing your emotion and everything. So we should talk about this emotion of compassion. How do you feel it? When do you feel it? How can you be more compassionate towards the, I'm not talking about the context or the kind of physical things that you can do, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'll take this. Very simply, when you talk about compassion, emotional intelligence, loyalty, happiness, it's all somewhere interconnected. Compassion, as we said, is empathy in action, right? So the minute I am with somebody and whether the news is good or bad, what I can decide for myself in that moment is that I have control over my thoughts, my reactions, my behaviors, and my outcomes. I have no control over anybody else's. I just have control over mine. So that will immediately help me to seek to respond to a situation rather than react to it. That's number one. Number two, if I start by giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, especially if it's my team member, if it's my child, if it's my spouse, if it's my domestic help, let's start by giving the person the benefit of the doubt. Now, that in itself will put us on a higher emotionally intelligent plane.
Hmm.
Because if you are able to drive civility rather than
Yeah.
incivility, automatically, we put ourselves on a higher emotional intelligence plane,
Plain.
and we are able to, drive and build better relationships.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
I'm a person who comes across as at least willing to hear you, the other person out without being non-judgment, without being judgmental, without reprimanding, without punishing, I think people would want to talk to me more than somebody whose first go-to emotion is
Makes a lot of
that's
sense. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, like in just life also, doing all of these things have helped me, or in connecting with people better. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Right. We'll go on to the next level of empathy, which for me is absolutely the most important level of empathy, because uh, as a speaker and a talker throughout my life, I've been told by teachers and everybody what a chatterbox. You keep saying you don't listen in relationships as well. Uh, but slowly, I think I've adapted the style of listening, and through research, of course, the efforts have been there to improve my listening. So I think there are a lot of people on the same boat as me, wherein they would feel that speaking in a situation and being like a center of things is absolutely important, and then they get lost when somebody else is speaking, right? And the moment somebody else is speaking, they're thinking about what to say next, right?
Correct.
So so for people in this boat, right, and people who just listen silently as well, you know and are said to be good listeners, uh, what exactly is good listening? Is it more than just keeping quiet? Is talking and asking questions a good way to be uh, a good listener?
Hmm. Good one, Yash. Now, it's very interesting, you know, and I think you've already touched upon a couple of points. Now, if broadly speaking, you know, what you've seen is that listening is categorized into five types of listening. Funnily enough, the first type of listening is ignoring. Hence, it's not listening at all. So let's do away with that. So if you really look at it, the first is ignoring. Now, that's not listening. Then comes what you just talked about, which is pretend listening. I'm listening to you, but I've got all the right body language and everything. I've got my eyes open, but I am actually mentally somewhere else. I'm not present at all.
Yeah,
Right?
those COVID classroom listenings.
Classrooms. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
Which automatically leads to making it what we call selective listening. I'm only listening to the bits that interest me. And also, I'm listening because I just want to, I want to give you my point of view, right? I want to just jump in and give you my point of view. Then comes the actual type of attentive listening, where I'm listening because I really want to make sense of what you are saying. I want to take it in completely. Now, that's often something that we call active listening as well. And selective listening is also called sometimes combative listening, because I
Yeah.
only listen because I want to refute you over there. So, attentive listening, active listening is the next. Now, to take it really to the next level would be what we call empathetic listening, where you are listening not only to the words that are being said, but you're also listening or looking out for that which is not being said. You're reading between the lines as well, picking up on nuances, energy, body language, and all of that. Now, that is the absolute gold standard of listening when you're empathetically listening. And as coaches, that's where we aim to be, because when you're in a coaching conversation, whether the person is it's an in person or over virtual medium, you've got to listen to what is not being said as well. So these are how we define the different types of listening.
Okay, perfect. Senthil, anything from you?
So I think
All right.
it's very perfectly said. Couldn't
Perfect.
agree anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree as well, because usually, people think that good listening comes down to these three things, like not talking when others are speaking, let them know you're listening through your facial experience, expressions, as you said, just the intent part of it. And then, of course, at the end, being able to repeat the last sentence, how we used to do it in school when the teacher used to call upon us. The last sentence is something that at least I used to say, so that she would say that I'm listening. But yes, beautifully said. um, in listening, this is more of just a general question and not related to, maybe related to the professional life as well. Right now, if Senthil and I have a disagreement, right, or any of my colleagues have a disagreement, we're both listening to each other, right? And our opinions are different, right? But this comes down to speaking as well, but we combat each other, right? Not understanding each other's perspective and giving facts again and again. Okay, so this is the logical fact, this is something that I have produced, and this is something that is right? Then I produce the same fact, because the universal facts will be universal facts, right? The earth will go around the sun, it can't be changed. But like there are certain facts, maybe political facts or maybe like some work facts, that are different. The two opinions are always there, the left and the right, the moderate or anything like that. So how do we like, what do we just at the end say that let's just agree to disagree, and like where is the solution? Like it's more on conflict resolution, but I do feel like somewhere like a good listener or a good listening could come here as well.
Beautifully put, Yash. I'm going to tell you what I normally do, okay, and see if it makes sense to you. Now, when you're listening to somebody and your points of view are dramatically different,
Hmm.
and you know that this is not going the way you would like it to, and it's going towards a conflict, the best thing to do is to try and focus on maybe that 1 to 5% of thing that you agree to,
Hmm.
right? Now, there must be something that you find agreeable in that conversation.
Hmm.
So hook onto that. And instead of saying, but, however, use yes and.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what you're saying yes to is that 1 to 5% which you are agreeing to, very small thread that of agreement. And when you say and, you are adding your perspective there.
Hmm.
Instead of saying no, but,
Yeah.
right?
True.
No, but my point of view, you say yes
Yes, and
and
hmm.
add your perspective.
Hmm.
Believe me, this really helps. It's taken a lot of practice. But over the years, the yes and has really, really helped me to, have come out of a lot of confrontational conversations, because conversations don't need to go that way. Every person is allowed to have their point of view. And again, we agree to disagree, but, just adding that yes and helps you to kind of carry the conversation forward.
I I also feel like not shutting the other person down. If you're a good listener,
Yes.
not shutting the other person down, because that's where inclusivity also comes in. Everybody is from different shapes and sizes of life. What Senthil would think would not match with my thinking, and what I would think would not match with Senthil's thinking. But to combat Senthil in a way that no, I'm right. This is the
Yeah.
logical facts, and the facts say everything, right? But his upbringing and his opinions would be completely different to those facts, because he's come from a different place. I think just accounting for that as well, and understanding, maybe while listening, understanding that and then speaking it out, that yes, I agree that you have your own personal experiences that have
You're right.
made you come to this opinion, but this is also my opinion. And then maybe somewhere you can find like that conflict resolution and like laugh about it later, I feel. But yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, but because I also feel that that also comes a lot into listening and listening carefully, because you can't just combat everything before it's even said, and not account for where the person has come from.
Absolutely. Yash, it's also about listening non judgmentally. And as
Yeah,
coaches, that is a very important part of us. Not being attached to being right, listening non judgmentally,
yeah,
creating that empathetic space. All of that is what, as coaches, we are trained to do. And often now it's become a part and parcel of who we are. No, there's no attachment to being right. So
yeah.
yes, and you bring in your perspective and you agree to the other person.
From what I could gather between the both of you, also, like, of course, good listening is like a trampoline, right? You are not just a silent listener, you're not always critical about it, but you are elevating, uh, the speaking of somebody else, you are giving your advice or whatever. So what does it mean to be that trampoline? How can you be that trampoline for someone else? Good question.
Fantastic question. So, being a trampoline essentially means, first and foremost, just allowing the person to bounce off their ideas of you, and with the focus on their ideas.
Hmm.
So you are there, you are listening to them, you are, encouraging them to peel away the layers and go deeper into, their thought process, come up with certain, solutions as to how they would like it to be, and then be a sounding board for them.
Yeah.
Because we believe as coaches that every person has the capacity to solve their own problems. They just need that little bit of a, what should I say, nudge in the right direction. So show them the mirror, be the bouncing, board of for ideas, but allow people to take their time and let them set the pace for themselves as to how they would like to reach, the outcome.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
powerful questions also help. Yeah, Senthil.
yeah. I mean, I also agree with Moshmi on that point. Like giving them the space to run it in their own way is very important. That's like being the trampoline. For example, let's take an example from cricket. Like MS Dhoni was being replaced by Virat Kohli. Right? Both have extremely different way of approaching cricket. I mean, if at all, if you are following cricket, you might know
Yeah.
how MSG approaches and how Virat Kohli approaches. But you see, now they both of them are not captain. But if you see their on-field chemistry right now, they both respect each other drastically. But their way of doing things are very different. MS Dhoni doesn't want Virat Kohli to be cool. Virat Kohli is very aggressive, but he let him do that. He gave them the space to be in that space. Restricting everybody who's following you to be like you is the biggest thing that they are trying to do. It's not being a trampoline. But if you give them the space, do it in your way, make your own mistakes and learn from those mistakes. I think that is being a trampoline. Whenever you're stuck, you can go back to him and get your sounding board advices. I think that's being a trampoline as well.
Yeah. Providing an introspection space to them, like them listening to themselves is like something that can be really important. Perfect. Let's go on to a little bit of more of a professional side, and let's talk about empathy again. Few of our clients have always had, and they have actually appreciated this, where we have told them how they can make meetings better in their professional professional service, right? Because meetings are the heart of an organization. That's where the creativity comes in. That's where new ideas come in. So quickly, if we can just give them like a word of advice on how using empathy, you being a good listener, whatever we have talked about today, encapsulating that, how can they make meetings better?
Okay. So, as Senthil has been talking about it, and so have I, psychological safety is something which helps us in most aspects in an organization. And specifically in meetings, if as a leader, I'm able to create a space where people can openly share their ideas without the fear of being judged, of being reprimanded, humiliated, punished, and also feel confident enough to voice their opinions, because not everybody is at the same has the same comfort level of speaking in in a large gathering or in a meeting. So being patient, encouraging those who are not really you know not really speaking up, but if you gauging their body language to see whether they have something to say or not, and then encouraging them to do so, um, making sure that those who are contributing a lot feel heard, but also are mindful of the fact that others need to be given a chance. So not shutting them down, but also seamlessly, acknowledging them and then giving others a chance to speak as well. So I think facilitating these meetings is a huge task a leader has, and that's where attentive listening and empathetic listening play a very, very important role. Another thing that I believe in is, um, you know, uh, summations and quick, collating the data that's emerged in the room as an outcome of the meeting to ensure that people are on track.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you go off agenda and the meeting just keeps stretching on and on. Silent people keep silent and the ones who are talking keep on talking. And that's not ideal. So I guess facilitating it, ensuring that every voice in the room is heard, every idea is tabled. And in the end, it's the leader's decision which is final.
Mm.
But if every voice in the room has been heard and
Mm.
ideas have been listened to, people will not have a problem if somebody's, if my idea is not taken and Central's idea is taken.
Yeah.
I've been heard and I feel good
Yes.
about it. So that's what I would say in a crux.
I'll chip in with my idea as well. I
Yeah.
think I really agree with what Moshimi was saying, psychological safety space, making sure everybody is here. But that heard part, like it need not be only in the way of speaking, right? Like when we say meeting has to be spoken meeting. It can be a written, we can mix it up as well. It can be a written meeting as well, where everybody's come down and write. So you can bring in diversity there as well. But to make things very practical, how do I make everybody heard? I have only 10 minutes, but I have 20 people sitting in my boardroom. How can I make everybody listen? So for those aspects, practical aspects is when we have, like, there is a structure called liberating structures. They have 33 liberating structures. These are all open source. Everybody can go and learn about it. I like open source these days. So liberating structures is it's a very powerful tool as well. Like you can make everybody inclusive, can listen to everybody, and in a very quick time. That's what it makes it very interesting. If I have 100 hours, I can make everybody listen. That's possible. But in a
It's a short
limited amount of time, how do I make it effective? So liberating structures is one such tool everybody should look at. Any facilitator should be very well equipped with these liberating structures. I mean, there are multiple tools. People give different names, but I'm giving liberating structures, which is a collation of 33 tools, and it's open source, so that you don't have to pay anything to learn all these things.
Yeah. That's really nice, Anil. Thanks for the advice as well, because that was going to be my question. When you have just such a small, short, not small, sorry, such a short time in a meeting, and it is the heart of the organization, but not everybody has time for it. Everybody has different works to do. So I think that is a good key. Liberating structures is something that you can use. Perfect. Before we go into the criticism of empathy, when we are talking about like psychological safety, right, we have to talk about shared experiences, right? And while going through the research of this for this podcast, one thing really struck with me, and it really did, like this listening part of it, and then shared experiences. Because I've always been hearing throughout my life from my childhood that, yeah, you have to be in his shoes to understand. You have to be in his shoes to understand. And this theory, just what I researched was completely different. uh, I heard that people in the shoes, like the shoes that you're trying to fill, right, they wouldn't understand you at all. Or they would rather have a hard time to understand you. So if we can just elaborate upon that, why would people with shared experiences would have a harder time understanding the person with the same experience?
Very deep question, Yash. Now, a shared experience on the surface of it might be the same, but each one of us has, experiences it differently. So they say, like stories, when we used storytelling during our sessions, uh, when you tell a story, often, and if you were to connect everybody to an MRI machine, you would see that our brain waves are all mapped together. Having said that, they will be similar, but they will not be the same. So the shared experience will have different nuances for different people. So I can, yes, I might have experienced the same thing, but have I really gone through experienced what you have experienced? No, because every person is unique. Every person's model of the world is unique. How we process information is unique. Our filters are unique, because our filters are related to our life's experiences, childhood memories, our self-limiting beliefs, and all that. So a shared experience will be shared only to the extent of that experience.
Yeah,
Everybody's how they will experience it will be as per their model of the world. So no two what should I say, outcomes will be the same.
absolutely right. I do agree. I agree completely with this, because if taken an example of a maternity break, right? Somebody, your manager had a maternity break before, you have a maternity break now, you think that she will understand the circumstance you're going through, you ask for a longer maternity break, but it's it is true that she will penalize you for that, because she came in before, she went through the same experience, and she was, I don't know, coming back to work faster. I don't want to be,
Yeah,
be it any other experience, they would always feel like, why, when I went through that experience, right, and I could cope with that experience faster than this person could, why is this person lacking behind? And that's where I
exactly.
agree with you that the outcomes is very different. The experience, the topic of the experience, to be very shallow, is very similar. The topic is the same, but the
Yeah.
content behind that experience is something you have to open the book and really see what is the content in the book. So I completely agree with that. Senthil, any thoughts or any questions of yours?
I think I agree on it. Like, but what's the question here? Like, uh, the shared experience are different. What are the
The
question is?
question is that, throughout we have heard that walk a mile in his shoes, and you'll
Acha, okay,
understand.
okay.
Yeah,
Is that really
because
possible? Okay, it's not possible. Yeah.
or is that even right? Like, walk a mile in his shoe, but also I don't feel it is right to say, right?
No,
Because
no, I think, I mean, if I'm understanding that part correctly, I think no two experiences can be same. Like, that might not be same, but I think with experience, you learn something as well. I think it's, uh, a question might be interpreted differently. Like, if I go through the experience, will I have the same learning as you? Is not the case. But would I have some learnings to experience? Is there?
yeah,
There
Exactly.
are two
yeah,
things also, no? So
Exactly. Yes,
when they,
yes.
what they meant is, uh, you
yeah,
might not
but
have the same experience as me, but
definitely,
you will
but
have something.
the research does show, Senthil, that if I go to a person that has never had that experience, they would be more empathetic to that experience of mine than a person who have already had that experience.
Acha.
That is the research behind this. So it was quite shocking to me that when they did this research, right, they must have asked thousands and thousands of people, of course. This is a Harvard Business Review research, right? And this is so amazing to me that, as a neutral, because humanity for them comes first, right? Because they have not gone through that experience. This is what I believe in. They have not gone through that experience, so now they are empathetic towards the experience that somebody else is going through. My point is, when you've had that experience and you have overcome that experience, and somebody is taking a longer time to overcome that experience, right, you always penalize that person. Say that I was also in a bad mental health at that point of time, but I overcame it. So why does she or he need, or they need a chutti for this, a break for this, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. So this is
So,
part, this is very related to, radical candor. And some of it is related to obnoxious aggression. That,
mm,
what, I've been through the same thing. I bounced back. What's taking you so long? I know
yeah,
what it's like. Now, that's just being obnoxious, you know. No two experiences are the same because each and every person's model of the world, internal mental model, is different, right? Two siblings,
Mm.
they have different mental models, even though
Yeah.
they've been through the same sort of upbringing, the same schools, the same parents, and the same kind of life experiences. Your interpretation is very, very unique to you. So and because I've been through it and I've got out of it, that little bit of as I said, ego comes into it also, and you stop being empathetic towards the other person, and because you're just looking at through your own lens.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just to clarify, right, like the research at the end says, it's in front of me, that people who have endured a past experience to those and successfully coped penalize people who struggle to cope more than the people that have never even had that experience. So it just says that at the end. I think, yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts, because this was really intriguing to me also. Like, this was an eye opener. Always I've been hearing the same thing, in workplace, in at home, anywhere. It is just a saying. So it's kind of like debunking the famous saying, but not really. You know, okay, perfect. So at the end, we'll just, because as we say in psychological safety, also criticism is not bad, but how we criticize is something that we should look for. And that's
Absolutely.
what emotional intelligence is all about as well. Uh, Emotions are not bad, but how you control those emotions, and how you project it forward is something that is important. So we will also criticize empathy a little bit here, right? And can we just talk about, with both of you, because you have given us such vast information on this. Firstly, empathy surely seems exhausting, because there is a lot to do, even though we have built it on just trust, that this is something. And that's where I relate to Senthil's point, that there are so many nuances that you go through. So is empathy exhausting, and what are certain limitations of empathy that a leader or junior or anybody can have?
I'll take it
Very
up.
interesting question. Yeah, go ahead, Senthil.
I think from my point of view, empathy isn't exhausting. So the thing is that if you feel that you're taking empathy out of something,
Mm,
so for me, empathy is like love. Like,
mm,
you show the love for the other person, like care for the other person, right? Like, when I show care for the other person or empathy for the other person, will it make me exhausted? Like, am I depleting myself out of it? For me, I mean, the entire human race, I think it kind of, we are in the love, like we are within the space. Like, empathy is not outside of us and we are taking it and give it to somebody. We are there, and for us to see it doesn't take any effort at all. If you want to show empathy, it's effortless. If you feel that you're taking it outside and giving it to giving it feels like an effort. But you're actually in that thing. Like, we are within that love, the frame of love. Like, love is not outside us. We are inside that. And it is just seeing it. Like, we're just seeing it.
mm.
And it doesn't take any effort. And for me, uh, it isn't exhaustive at all. Like, if it is exhausting, uh, it's wrong. It's not empathy. It's not true love in first place. Love isn't exhausting. It's there.
But how do you achieve that then, Senthil, according to you?
It's true. It's true understanding. I think understanding is the foundation that is missing. To real, if you really understand, I mean, I'm not saying I understood and I'm saying it. It's because I haven't understood it very clearly. I'm not able to put it very clearly, to be
Mm,
honest. When I meant my opinions are strong, basically, I mean, I do not have the competency to explain it in a very clear way.
mm,
So it's only through human understanding, this empathy or love, whatever it is, becomes inexhausting. And if it is not there, it feels like an effort that we are putting in so much effort to show empathy towards other person.
mm.
But it is, in reality, it is effortless.
Okay. Just a question here before we speak to Moshmi also. leadership, right? Let's talk about like leaders. Like they can't love each and every one of, or can they? Like it's just an objective question. Like uh,
And they can, yeah.
they definitely can, but they don't. Right? Like it's harder for them to love everybody and showcase that empathy. But we did talk about how empathy plays a really big empathy and compassion plays a really big importance in driving employees' performance, right? And that's where empathy can be exhausting. See, sometimes idealistically it would be amazing that if we all love each other and there is empathy between everybody, and it would truly the world would be a better place. Like I truly believe that, like if everybody showcase certain amount of empathy as human beings, and the capitalism that is all around us subdued a little bit and our empathy rose a little bit, I think we would be at a very very good place in life and everybody would be happy. But that truly is idealistic, and people are trying to achieve that, right? We are trying to achieve that, people are trying to achieve that, but it is not there yet, right? But in this world that we are currently living in, the leaders have to practice that empathy, right? So it can get exhausting because they still have to drive performance from the people. They can't just be angry all the time, and they can't just be subjective and objectively always questioning them on their matters. So sometimes, as we have said in this podcast, right, you have to drive empathetically towards your juniors. And that's where I think empathy can get exhausting, according to me, right? Because the true intention is a intention of a very capitalistic mind, that you want to drive performance, right? But to drive that performance, you have to be empathetic, right? Um, and that's where I just feel like empathy can be exhaustive. Moshmi, your thoughts on this, please?
No, I'll just add
Yes, yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, See, I think I'm kind of put it in a different way. See,
Hmm.
empathy or love isn't very exhausting, but making people understand, right? Like you asked me, how do I achieve that universal love? Is through understanding. But making the other people understand is an exhaustive process. So that takes time. Like if I have to make you that, how do I make everybody competent?
Hmm.
The main intention is there, but the competency is missing.
Hmm.
How do I make the other person competent? How do I make them increase their understanding? Is an effort. You cannot do it. You do not have all the energy in the world to make everybody understand. So it is limited to few of your relationship.
Hmm.
That process is really exhausting. So you have to choose which are the relationship you want to really build, and you
Hmm.
can give care and guidance for them. But love is not exhaustive. Empathy is not
True.
exhaustive. This process of understanding is exhaustive. So we're kind of mixing it up. But showing empathy, love is very beautiful thing. It's not exhaustive, but
Hmm.
making people understand, build competence is really effort in first place. So if I'm just correcting myself as well here.
Hmm.
Yeah, Moshmi, taken much of my time
Okay.
here.
No, not at all, Senthil. It's so interesting to hear your point of view, and I really love how you brought in the concept of love. That's really a very important aspect of belongingness and inclusion. So empathy becomes exhausting when you you care about your team, the people that you work with, but for some reason, and most of the time it is because we it's exhausting to confront people, make them understand your point of view, do take them through an explanation. You don't challenge them, and the wrongs keep continuing, and there is only artificial harmony at the end of the day.
Hmm.
That's when empathy, or the practice of empathy, seemingly becomes very exhausting. If you are investing time in a person, in a project, in work, you are going to expect returns. So if you're a, if you're going to give, you need to be a judicious giver. If you're a judicious giver, and you give your time and your energy and your resources to projects, and without compromising your own productivity, your own profitability, then it's okay. But if you uh, aren't able to challenge aspects of your of behavior and actions of your team because you don't want to seem unempathetic, then that becomes extremely exhausting as a leader. That's too much of a load to bear.
Yeah, it's a cognitive task. I
Yes.
mean, but both of you are absolutely right. Like changes my perspective on things as well, because I always mm, personal relationships, yes, definitely. Like it's very selective. The people that you actually are empathetic to, somewhere you love them, right? And comes back to the first thing that you want to see them happy, right? And you build trust with them, so everything comes back to that point. But for me it was always like the fact that it is such a heavy duty, like if, like how I said before, also in this world that we are living, right? It is such a cognitive task for the leaders to give empathy to everybody to drive performance, and it's also like just a zero sum game for them, that the more that I have for someone, the less I have for someone else, and like how much
True.
I can do. So for me, logically, and just like realizing how the world is, but definitely like well spoken, I think if we can drive towards that, it would be excellent for the leaders to do that as well. um, Perfect. Anything else that you want to add for the criticism of empathy? Maybe having too much of empathy, or anything that you guys want to add? Free flow.
Too much of anything is not good, Yash, including empathy, right?
Yeah, that is
And
true.
at the end of the day, we are
Makes you too
when
naive, I
we're
feel.
working. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
There has to be a balancing act. There are times we need to have those conversations, those tough conversations. There are times we need to, for the greater good, we need to make some small changes, which might make us seem unempathetic in that moment, but for the greater good, it was required.
Hmm.
So I think I'd like to quote Dalai Lama on
Hmm.
this when he says, "Our prime purpose in this life is to help others,
Hmm.
and if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them." So
Yeah.
I think for me, this sums it up.
Something.
Yeah, very nice, Moshmi. Like the quote from Dalai Lama as well. One more thing, I think we didn't have the time luxury to
No,
address
no,
is
we
also
will talk about it, but
very
I
valid.
just want to talk about like if there is something in empathy you want to talk about
Yeah.
first.
So for me, I'll take it as a relationship. In
Yeah.
relationship to build relationship, I think one of the other element is also respect. We
Hmm.
spoke about trust here. One of the element is respect, and respect actually means having the right evaluation of people. Like it's not over evaluating someone or under evaluating someone. We tend to do more of under evaluating these days. The same thing goes with empathy as well. Like when you evaluate them rightly, give them the right set of empathy, not over empathy or lesser empathy as well. When you do it right, things will fall in place. I think fitting on that right might be challenging, but yeah, too much or too less is also a problem.
I
Yeah,
feel like guidance is absolutely important in all of this. Like I have heard throughout, like we have been talking for almost 2 hours, right? I have heard you guys throughout, right? On certain aspects of empathy. It's not how we should behave, but I feel like a guiding structure, or just good listener, right? Trampoline. You can introspect it yourself, like a coach, or just a good listener who can help you trampoline that conversation back to you, can make you understand a lot more about yourself, because everything comes from yourself, right? Empathy comes from yourself, from within. So when I talk about if excessive empathy is good enough or not, and then watch me said anything excessive is not good, right? uh, where do you draw the line is up to you, right? Where do you draw the line of self-respect and empathy as well? Where do you draw the line of being too naive or too sweet to somebody, and empathy, being empathetic to them? Okay, perfect. From all of this, like Dalai Lama and everything, I also remembered, and I wrote about it as well. That I read this book, Happiness Hypothesis, and I would like you guys to talk about a little bit of mind and Buddhism, right? Because we started with Buddhism. I remember just hearing that word. So, for example, Buddha did say that the mind can behave like a wild elephant. So it can be led astray by our body desires like lust, hunger, and pleasure, and our logic acts as the rider on top of this elephant. And somewhere I feel like this also describes the mammalian brain and neocortex and how they don't always work in harmony, even though we have tried our best to work these systems in harmony. So, if we can draw a parallel between how certain principles of Buddhism also can be really helpful. Just to understand like life, empathy, as you talked about the Dalai Lama. So if we can just throw some light on that as well.
I'll jump in first.
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
I say that because it's the author, Daniel Goleman, right?
Yes.
He was friends with the Dalai Lama for so long, and the Dalai Lama was so interested in. I have heard the conversations, and I have read their interview as well. Like, so interested in going into science and research and talking about his leadership style. And Goldman then came back and talked about emotional intelligence, Dalai Lama. So that's where, yes, please, Antil, go ahead.
So I also like whenever we are having these conversations, I really like if you can keep all the books, all the people, all the research facts away as well, because we humans have this power of intuition as well. Like we know this is right, this is wrong as well. Sometimes we always back our saying with research, back our saying with people, but it's always in a facilitated conversation. It's always good to keep them away and then jump in as well, right? Because we also tend to using more of Harvard Business Review. These people doesn't mean it becomes a fact as well. If it's a fact, we also can comprehend it by ourselves. That power is there within all of us. So coming back to the point, mind. So I think mind is a wild animal, and logic can control it, right? I think that's what I also wanted to reiterate as well.
Yeah.
Logic. When I
Yeah.
mean logic,
Yeah.
it's understanding. Sensory impulses are one. Another impulse is preconditioning impulses, because we are preconditioned to be. We can be happy only when we are rich. A lot of things are also preconditioned by the world, not just senses. This doesn't fall under senses. Preconditioning. If you go on surfing, we're having a happy day. These are all kind of preconditioning as well. Not pointing at you, Moshe. Just I'm saying these adventurous trips are fun. These are all in some kind of preconditioning, and to overcome this preconditioning and these sensory impulses is when we need that logic, the intellect, the real understanding. But the point there is controlling the mind is also another challenge. I think it's not being addressed right, because our mind's job is to give us options. They say monkey mind. Your mind has to be monkey. Your mind has to give us options, and we should have a firm understanding to make a decision. So wanting the mind to not give options is making it dead. I think there is that slight difference there. Like, do meditation to control your mind. You should not get random thoughts. Has two layers to it. Our mind has to give you random thoughts. Multiple thoughts has to come to you, but you should have a firm understanding to make a decision. That logic, to get rid of all those. These are all unnecessary. This is the right thing for me to do. So we should not fight with our mind to not give any options. We should not get all these thoughts. That's a problem. If you're looking for that, it's a problem. So that, since you're speaking about mind and Buddhism, I really wanted to reiterate on that. Mind is doing its job correct. Its job is to give options. Our job is to understand. We are not able to understand a lot of. We are not putting in efforts towards that part. It's easy. If you throw effort in that space, a human can do a lot of wonders. We have put up so much attention towards physical facilities, and we have grown so much here. We have, I mean, from where we started, the level of comfortness we have so big. We're going to the Mars. We're landing in Mars, man.
Yeah.
Because you have put in attention there, we have grown.
Mm.
But you have failed to put attention towards the spectrum of relationship and understanding. The moment we start putting so much attention there, we'll do wonders there as well. But the point is, we have not put much attention in the space of understanding relationship and true human existence. Yeah.
Very, very, very well put, Senthil. But I also feel what you said is right. Because I feel the world is such a place that firstly, I think everybody should read this book, Happiness Hypothesis. It's an excellent book. It relates to a lot of principles that people face in their daily lives to what Buddhism talks about, and it is beautifully connected. When I read it, I felt absolutely happy, as Happiness Hypothesis says. But I do feel like there's so many options in the world, right? Political leaning, different aspects of life. What is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. um, a person is so confused all the time, that what is his purpose, right, in life. And that's where the unhappiness, like, I have had so many people tell me that, I just don't like myself right now, right. So many people, like, and I don't understand that. Like, yes, of course, you have to find meaning in life, and yes, of course, but there is a driver in our mind will, as you said, mind will always give us the options, but we have to see what is the best for us, right. And but I do feel like we are all getting lost somewhere in this world, by having too many things around us. A simplistic life is one of the best lives to live and be happy with. Just wanted to share that also. Yes, Moshmi, if there's anything that you want to say.
So I agree to what both of you were talking about right now. Today uh, we are like bombarded with information and
But sorry, Moshmi, but why is everybody
yeah,
sad? Why is
yeah.
why
I'm
are
coming to that.
the
I'm coming to that.
people, we should, as I said, that we have gone to Mars, man. Like, that's
Yeah,
his exact phrase. We have built technologies that we couldn't even think about. We have done
yeah.
excellent in academics, right? Like, we are on another level altogether, from what we were 15 years ago, and that was supposed to make us happy, improve our lifestyles. We are, that was what was proposed, why we are building so many things, because that will make human life just easier, right. So now more than ever, why do I see everybody just unhappy with everything?
Because for all of us, it's we don't live in the moment. Whenever there is one little thing that we are happy about, we went to the moon and we landed on the moon, and the very next instance it was okay. Now what can we do next? So it's the hedonistic point of happiness, wherein we cannot even wait for let's say we don't even stop to smell the flowers before we move on to the next thing. And this quest to achieve and to get more and more and more and want more and more and never be happy or to enjoy what we have achieved actually leads to this the sense of incompleteness and void within us. I've achieved this, but I haven't achieved that. But there's always that but. It's never take a step back and just enjoy that moment. Enjoy, feel calm, be happy, and soak in the experience. The simple thing when we are out with our friends, we're experiencing a shared experience. Photographs, we go crazy taking pictures. Why can't we put our phones or our cameras aside and just record that experience in our mind, remember how it felt, and how it felt to be with each other and exchange those as memories rather than be intent upon just taking pictures. So a lot
Absolutely.
of that is about, just living in the moment and enjoying and totally immersing yourself in that experience. So I think if you're able to do that, some of that sadness will go away.
Hmm. I have
And
just,
that's just
yeah.
my humble opinion.
No, that is absolutely true. I mean, when we discuss, except for seeing pictures and clicking that, just being on our phones, for example, and like afterwards, if we are actually enjoying the moment and we share that experience, maybe later on, the kind of happiness that we feel like just goofing around or anything like that instead of using our phones is absolutely you're absolutely right on that. Just one last question for you guys before we end this. In this world, people are not confident about how they live and how they are and what they believe in and what they don't believe in. Right? It's out of the question of empathy or anything like that. But still, I just wanted to ask you guys that they're not too sure about whether what they believe, their belief systems, right, whether what they believe is right, wrong, because society, of course, then there are different options that tell you different things. So what is the right methodology to go forward for these people as well? Like, is there something that can help people be more confident onto the fact that what they believe in?
So, as coaches, I think this is a question that comes to us very often because all of us, all human beings, go through their own deletions, distortions, and generalizations.
Hmm.
So, minute the right or the question of right or wrong comes up, as a coach, I think the first question I ask is right as per who?
Hmm. Hmm.
Who is deciding it is right or wrong? We all live, as I said, our version of our world, right? So who is to say that what I am doing is wrong and what you are doing is right? It's my version of the truth. It's my version of the world, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So confidence comes from believing in what you are doing intrinsically and not needing validation, constant validation, and believing in in the paths that you've decided to walk upon.
Hmm.
And last but not the least, facing the consequences. So if I've chosen, if I've taken the decision, I'm not going to second guess myself, and whatever is happens as an outcome of that decision, I will accept it.
Hmm.
So acceptance, allowance, and surrender,
Okay.
that's the way I look at it.
Anything from you, Senthil?
I don't know. What do I answer here? The question,
Hmm.
I think everybody has their own journey. I think
Hmm.
they have to go through the journey. I think
Hmm.
if at all we show another path to them, they might still think I should have taken the other path. I think I've taken the wrong path. But then it's better they go through their journey, and through the journey, they confirm, okay, this is not the path to go, and then I'm taking the another path. I think maybe if somebody, there can be an option to show paths. That's it. Then we can't
Yeah.
show this is the path to go.
Yeah.
These options are there. Which one do you think you want to take first? Is
Hmm.
something they have to decide. But the thing is, we are lacking that paths in first place here. We're showing them very, very limited paths. Uh, uh, that's the challenge here. If we show them some more paths, people might take it up. But
I
there's
think,
no
yeah.
definite path towards. They have to decide.
Mm. I think also it comes within the paths as well. Like, the paths that you show will be, as you said, will be very limited, right? To someone else, you can just guide them, yes, to what you believe is right would not be right for them, right? But you can share your experience as well, that okay, this is something that I did for myself, and this is the path that I have taken. But they have to decide the kind of paths that there are for them, and choose, as you said, right, choose and go trial and error, and if they are wrong, life is long. you know
And I
so
think it will pop up as well. I think when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And I think
yeah,
I kind of very much realized it in my life as well. Like when I'm ready, I think that path is coming in front of me.
yeah,
Uh,
true, true, intuition and destiny. Perfect, yeah, anything
Destiny,
else?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Mosh?
No, I'm just saying the brain is a connection machine. What we put our attention on, we attract.
Definitely. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys, for this. It's been a long, long, long talk for just a singular topic, but it was lovely to have you guys and talk about perspectives, differing opinions. We should never, I always feel that we should never shy away from differing opinions, because that's what. Um, how the mind gets sharpened even more, and different perspectives is something that you always learn better from. But lovely time, guys. Thank you so much, Moshmi, for bringing, and Senthil, for bringing your expertise on this matter, and I hope this can really help people. We'll continue doing this sometime forward as well. But thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you,
Yash.
Yash. Thanks, Senthil.
Yeah, thank you, Moshmi, for having us here, and thank you all the listeners the session. There are a lot of people listening.
Yes,
Thank you, all of
yes.
them, for bearing with us for like 2.5 hours.
I think great minds. Please, Moshmi and Santhil, Moshmi Gupta, and please go on her profile, check her out. It's amazing to hear from both of you guys. Thank you so much.